When I graduated uni in 2018, I thought the only way to possibly get paid for writing was to be an author. I thought that was the only way that writers become writers is you write a book and everyone buys it and that's it. And this is far from the truth, especially nowadays. There are so many different forms of writing and ways you can get paid to write on the internet. And in this video, I want to explain some of the ways that I've tried and some of the ways that I know that some people do. Because I wish I had this video when I was younger, because I ended up doing a bunch of random jobs, doing some social media stuff and doing all these things, which I'm glad I did, but I think I could have gotten started on my writing journey sooner if I had known that there is such great potential out there. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Caleb and I'm a copywriter from London. Now, how I write for a living is I am in the finance niche. So I used to be a freelance writer and I used to write articles on like gaming and tech. And then due to my career in marketing kind of moving into the finance space, so I used to work at Barclays, I used to work at PaySafe and Tide. I then started offering financial articles. So financial articles became my main business. I found a good demand for that. So I've then set up my own business, which is called Finis, and we offer financial articles and SEO to companies in the finance sector. Now, I've been doing this for about a year and a half now, and it's been going pretty well. It's a steep learning curve and there's lots to learn, but I think, yeah, we're getting there. Now, this is probably the main way people get paid to write, is with copywriting, email marketing, freelance writing, anything like that. I would say this is probably the main way that you can start today and get paid writing. Now, almost every business in the world that is relatively established needs a lot of content and writing, especially in today's day and age. Okay, you need writing for your website, you need writing for blogs, you need writing for white papers, you need writing for everything that goes out, all the communications. And trust me when I say this, good writers are hard to come by, good, reliable writers. And I'll come back to that second word later, but good, reliable writers are extremely important. Now, the way to start this, in my opinion, and lots of people will groan at this, but it's how I started, is with Upwork and Fiverr. Now, if you don't know what these are basically platforms that you can make an account on, and then you essentially apply for work. It's like gig work for writing. And if people need something done like relatively cheap, they can go on there and then they can post in their problem or their job, and then you apply or they pick your services. Now, I love these platforms. I think I understand the criticism of them, but I also love them at the same time because they are one of the best ways to start from scratch. Okay, you understand how to price your services, you understand what to offer, you can see examples of what other people are offering, and you can start to build up a portfolio, which is then essential for them when you offer work for people off these platforms. So I would say that Fiverr and Upwork are probably the main first one that you can use in order to get paid. Some people make a living through these platforms. It's absolutely true. I've seen it happen. You can see some of the top profiles on there. People have you can see all the work they've done. Sometimes they've got hundreds of thousands transacted through Upwork and Fiverr. I think that's great. I think it's a great place to start. Obviously, they take a cut and you'll always be fighting. It will always be a race to the bottom because people will undercut you. So I don't know why people would stay on Upwork or Fiverr for that long. But for when you're starting out, it's absolutely perfect. And I highly, highly recommend starting there. You will get your first best clients through these platforms. Now, I think the second way that you can get paid to write, and this is something that I've gone into, is SEO. So lots of agencies and companies need SEO, and SEO requires a lot of writing. The best SEO is just producing high quality content, EAT content, and basically just making really, really good content that the audience enjoys. Now, this is one way that you can get paid to write, and I believe this is where I've done my most of my writing and most of the most valuable writing that I've done is with SEO, with SEO in mind. You have to do intense amounts of research, and um, you have to write really long, detailed pieces. And I think some of the best things I've written have been for SEO. And now my main business, Finners, we offer SEO services. So I've now become an SEO specialist. I offer this to businesses. This is essentially what I do. This is like my stock and trade now. I think it's a fantastic way to essentially write for a living, because all I do pretty much most days is wake up and read articles, write articles, and produce articles. That's essentially what I do. So SEO is the second one that I think is a really, really strong one. Now, the next one is ghostwriting. Now, this is something new that I've come across. I didn't know this was always a thing, and I think it's become a new thing. But people are paying quite a lot of money for people to be their LinkedIn or Twitter ghostwriters. Um, it's a very effective service, and I think it's happened because now people are moving into more founder-led businesses. So so the way that generally the market is going is that there is a lot of mistrust with more corporate messaging and more corporate writing, because basically companies for too long have just overproduced content. They have just made too much. And now we've got AI and ChatGPT and all that, like just churning out content. Trust is at an all-time low. People don't really trust things. You know it's an ad when you see it. You know it's email marketing when you see it. Everyone's just kind of tired of it. Founder-led businesses are the future now, because people trust people. And if you have a really strong personal brand that is at the heart of your business, people buy from that, and people are seeing success with it. So to build a personal brand, people are hiring ghostwriters to essentially write their social media posts, to write their Twitter posts, to write whatever, to essentially act as them online. Some might say, okay, this is just the same as social media marketing. And I would say, yeah, it's essentially the same thing, but you are heavily leaning on branding, and I've also personally worked with a ghostwriting client, and you have to really get to know them, and you have to understand what they want, understand how they talk, understand what they say, and you're writing as that person and thinking about, okay, what would I say if I were them, and what do they like to talk about? And you generally find that people have core themes within them that they want to tell the world. So I think ghostwriting is a really, really exciting one, and it's very new. Okay, it's a very new thing. I don't think it's really been capitalized on yet. There's a company called Notice, and I think that is probably the best example right now of a ghostwriting business. They essentially do personal branding and campaigns for founders and CEOs. And I think that kind of business is going to become very, very common as more generic social media agencies die. These agencies are going to come in and be a lot more popular. Um, so yeah, that is another great way that you can write for a living. I think there's a lot of writing involved in it, especially if they want more long form stuff. And it's also very interesting. It's actually interesting work you're going to write. You're going to write about people's personal stories. You're going to write about people's case studies and people's like visions on the world, and actually kind of try and build a character in a way, a character that you're sort of creating in the real world. Okay, so these are all the things that I have personally done. I've done the SEO, I've done the freelance writing, I've done the ghost writing. These are all fairly functional things. You package up your writing and you sell it to businesses or CEOs. It's fairly simple. Now, there are actually other ways to get paid for your writing. Now, I think this second category is a little bit more tricky. Okay, you need to be someone who's a prolific writer who has an audience. And I would say these next two options are Substack and Medium, and any other platforms like it. Now, Substack is great. It's a really, really good platform for writers. I feel like it is like the old blogging days. Like people have their blogs on there. People post really personal things, really open things. It's a really nice, refreshing change to most of social media. I personally really like it. and you read some really interesting stuff on there. I have a Substack myself. I don't get any money from it. I tried to do that for a while, but I just decided I didn't want to do it. Um, some people make full-time incomes from Substack, and essentially how you do this is there is a built-in function where you can charge subscriptions to your newsletter. So if people really, really love what you do, you can put a price tag on it. You can say, okay, it's £10 a month to read my newsletter, and you can start charging for it. And some people make really, really good money, and um, yeah, they do very well. You can do the same with Medium. However, I will say that lots of people are flocking from Medium to Substack. I've seen a lot of writers from there. It's almost like a kind of exodus from Medium because I don't think the pay is very good. It's much harder to grow there. So it's a bit more difficult to get like a full-time income on Medium. Uh, Substack definitely is the place to do it. I will say though, it is difficult. Um, I think people that do it are very, very dedicated, and they have a lot of um, they have a real niche subject that they are very knowledgeable on, and they write consistently. Like I'm talking probably a few times a week. They post some really high quality stuff, and they are just very active on the platform. Writing on platforms in this way will reward writing a lot. Like it will reward the dedication to really creating something. Okay, and then the last way is, I guess, probably the one you already know, which is writing books. But I'm going to add a little caveat on that. You can write books and self-publish them on Amazon. You can write about anything. You can just publish it. I had a friend who just made a book on veganism, and he just published it. That was that. Um, you don't have to be a published author. You don't have to know anyone. You could just do it right now if you wanted to. People can get money from that. If you write something that people really like and people really want to read, then I'm sure you're going to get customers, no doubt. I think from here, I would say monetizing your writing can be done in better ways than necessarily publishing a book. Like, obviously, people still publish books, and there's a huge book industry. I'm not saying the book industry is done, but I think if you're looking for getting paid quicker and maybe more consistently, there are places like School and Gumroad where you can put a price tag on digital documents. So you're almost moving more into digital products. And I think selling your writing as a digital product is very, very smart, especially if it's something that people really need, such as a guide on how to do something. Like if you were writing about, say, gardening or something, and you had a £20 guide on, okay, all the best gardening tools to use. I don't know why I always use gardening as an example, but imagine you had that. You could then, instead of writing a book and then charging £20 for it, it would be much better to have like a Gumroad guide, and then, for example, or a school community that you then charge access to, and then you publish your writing on there. So people pay for something more in a way, instead of just like a book or something. I think, and then from here you can then maybe do more of the writing on Substack, or more of the writing on Medium or Twitter, or almost ghostwrite for yourself about what you do, and then you channel people into a digital product, and essentially you are getting paid to write. Like Nicholas Cole, Dickie Bush are kind of the pioneers of this, which is writing digitally and kind of selling digital products and getting paid to sell your writing in this way. I think this is very, very common. I think this is becoming more common, and I think it's great. I think it's an amazing thing. Like, people are writing on the internet for a living, and people are paying, and it's worth paying for because it's unique knowledge that you can gain access to. Also, harking back to my previous point, I also want to highlight what makes a good writer, and where you will see success writing for a living. Now, you need to be reliable. Reliability is probably the most important thing. I would say reliability is even more important than skill. Your consistency and your reliability as a writer is more important than your skill. Okay, because if you are reliable and consistent, you will get better. That's the only way to get better as a writer, is to just consistently do it. It's like breathing or exercising. You can't just be good at it. You have to just You have to just like exercise all the time to be good at exercising. There's no shortcut. You can't, read a certain thing that will make it. You just have to put the reps in. It's the same with writing. I'm only good at writing now because I've written everything under the sun. I've written every type of thing. And, anytime that a company comes to me and says, can you write this? I say, yeah, that's fine, because I've done it before. And especially if you are writing as a service, so like the first part of this video, if you're writing as a service, then you need to be very reliable, okay? Because that's where you'll get repeat customers. If you can produce high quality, reliable work, that is very, very valuable to a business, because you'd be amazed how many writers are not reliable at all. Okay, and I would say the last point is reading a lot. So this doesn't mean necessarily reading novels, but you want to be reading what you are writing. For example, I read a lot of articles. I read a lot of financial articles because I produce financial articles. So the only way to get better at that is to take in a lot of what other people are doing, so I can then output good stuff. It's the same as if you want to write a novel. You can't write a novel unless you read novels. You can't, write a non-fiction book unless you read non-fiction books. Okay, you need to know the craft and know what you're doing. So that would be what I would do to get better. If I was a beginner again, I would be reading a lot. I would be looking out for what other people are doing, and I'd be subscribing to their Substacks and subscribing to their newsletters and looking at their digital products and looking at their Twitter accounts. Like, how do they write? What are they doing? And just imitating what they're doing. There is a quote that everyone knows. Good writers borrow and great writers steal, because that's just how it goes. That's how art and creativity is carried on, is that you learn from those before you, and then you continue on their journey. We're all part of the same journey in that regard. So writing for a living is not as hard as you think. It's much more attainable. I think you have to be creative in a way to think about, okay, different ways you can get paid to do it. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck. You can find all my socials below. In my link tree, you can see all the writing I've done. You can see my Substack. You can see Finis's website, and I've got a bunch of examples on there. You can see other things we've written. Yeah, I hope you got some good ideas from this video, and you can start writing for a living soon.